Go for it. I'll check YouTube out.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us on the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. My name is Nick. Call sign is Kilo November 6, Delta Alpha Lima.
YouTube audio is good.
And before we get started, just want to take a moment and make sure there's no priority traffic. If there is, you can break through at any time by saying break, break, and your call sign, and we will clear the air. Is there any priority traffic at this time? All right, nothing being heard. We also want to take a minute and just thank the owners and supporters of the W6VVR repeater and the Vaca Valley Radio Club, the Free Star Network, and also a big thanks to WG5EEK Mike, Greg, KN6KIE, and Brian, KK6BXP for their continued networking efforts and for all of those involved in keeping all of the connections alive. And the 2 Meter Crew is not an actual club. We're just a group of hams that are learning and enjoying all things ham related. There's no dues or fees to be a 2 Meter Crew member. For more information, you can check out our website at 2metercrew.net. And you can also join our Discord group. There's a link in the YouTube description for those if you want to find out a little bit more about us. And the 2 Meter Crew is an open net. It's open for anybody. Everyone's welcome to join in and talk and chime in with any questions that you have. There's multiple digital and analog connections that you can join us through. We meet every Wednesday on the W6VVR repeater at 8 p.m., which is 3 a.m. UTC. And we also have a link for Echolink, which is W6VVR-R. All-Star nodes 51094 and 512342 through DMR talk group 3174117, YSF reflector 50462, and Freestar All-Star links are 2195 and 53377. And we got a notification here on YouTube that there is quite a bit of crackle on the W6VVR repeater tonight. Unfortunately, that is out of our hands. But it was making a little bit of noise last night. Hopefully, it clears up as the anti-net continues. Let's take a minute here and see, is there any new operators or anybody that's never checked in with us before, or even if you have and you just want to jump in and say hi, come on in now and check in.
You like my rainbow color loop going on with my lights?
You need a fogger and a and like a little mini strobe. just get it going.
Here we go. Oh, I dropped it.
All right, nothing being heard. Is there any stations out there coming in digitally that would like to check in with us tonight?
And 6SPB San Jose, new check-in, and digital.
N6, I believe it was Sierra Papa Bravo. How are you tonight?
Oh yeah, correct on the call sign. Name here is Scott, Sierra Charlie Oscar Tango Tango. I've watched a couple of some of the streams on YouTube and thought I'd join in tonight.
Hey, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Tell a friend and bring them by. And you said that you were from San Jose. Was that correct?
Lovely, slightly overcast and chilly tonight, San Jose.
Well, I guess that's blistering hot and better than blistering hot and humid. So we're seeing some weather change up here too. It's starting to get cold, and I'm afraid of the cold. I hate being freezing, and that's one of the negatives of the Great Northwest. I got Connor over here. He's shaking his head. Next up, we're going to talk about gas prices. No, I'm just kidding. Well, thanks for checking in with us tonight. We appreciate it. Let's see if we got anybody else out there. Anybody else want to check in? Come on in.
So cold, gotta start using a lighter to warm up your hands. You see that? Just
J7, IBU, Kilo 7, India Bravo uniform, Striker in Olympia. How you doing, everybody?
Hey, Striker, what's going on, buddy? You sound really good on the repeater tonight. How goes it in your neck of the woods?
A minute south here. We're doing pretty good. I'm coming in over YSF, and I actually have my hotspot hooked up to a Jackery battery pack. I'm out here in the shack. I got a Wi-Fi access point that's nice and close, so all sorts of RF in this tiny little confined space making this work. Always fun.
Yeah, for sure. Test and learn, and just keep going. It's amazing what I've seen some people do. I mean, I've seen pictures and talked to people, just Zoom chats and stuff, what they can do with small spaces. And I laugh because one of the best is Connor's. You should see, like, if you could just see a 360 of his room without looking at the floor, of course. Just keeping it off the floor. I mean, he's got so much stuff packed into that room. It's amazing. So if you ever needed any advice, he's the guy to go to on how to fit 800 radios into a little tiny room.
check my QR's head.
Yeah.
Pretty good, yeah. Working on some storage constraints at the moment, but yeah, that's the ultra high density method right there. That's a max peak efficiency.
Well, that's awesome, Striker. I appreciate you checking in with us tonight. Let's see if we got anybody else out there. Anybody else want to check in, whether you're coming in through analog or any digital modes? Come on in now.
Check the message.
All right, just a heads up for everybody. We are testing a new connection tonight to Mountain West through their P25 link. I'm going to pass it over to Connor because I don't remember the link off the top of my head, but you want to tell us how they can access that?
Yeah, this is Connor K7CBL. The P25 network, it's a the top. Let's just get it right out of the way. The reflector is 31062. You'll see that on your Dude Star, Droid Star. If you're on an actual radio, it's 31062. Typically, we have it cross-linked to DMR, and I was just messaging Nick here. Everybody that comes in over any of our connections sounds great coming out of P25. So if you're new to the digital land and kind of want to play around with the mode, or you have something like Droid Star where you could on the fly go to a different mode, I would definitely recommend giving it a shot, as it really does sound really, really good. It handles analog to digital conversions very well, and then Nick's setup with digital to digital, it sounds great no matter whether you're coming in on Fusion or DMR. Anything cross-linked to it, I've found it always sounds great. So yeah, 31062 on the P25 side, and yeah, that's the information about it.
Thanks, Connor.
Cool kid stuff. You wouldn't understand, Nick.
Barely understand. I got the link. Connected
Yeah, you got it.
Come on, give me some credit. All right, Nick, KN6DAL here. Let's take a second and see what we have if we go back in history. So, I thought this was kind of interesting. Back in 1913, in an attempt to find ways to lower the cost of the automobile and make it more affordable to ordinary Americans, Henry Ford took note of the work of efficiency experts like Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management, and the result was the assembly line that reduced the time it took to manufacture a car from 12 hours to 93 minutes. And you got to wonder, if it only takes 93 minutes to make that car, why is it taking so long for them to reproduce cars now? KN6DAL.
It's actually crazy. 93 minutes.
That's fast. I don't know how long it takes now.
Is that
but
like a car? Like, was it based off like a Prius or an F-150?
I have no idea. Back in 1913.
Because it matters. Like.
All right. In 1949, East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, was formed. In 1957, a fire in the Windscale plutonium production reactor, later called Sellafield, north of Liverpool, England, spreads radioactive iodine and polonium through the countryside and into the Irish Sea. Livestock in the immediate area were destroyed, along with 500,000 gallons of milk. At least 30 and possibly as many as 1,000 cancer deaths were subsequently linked to that incident. I've never even heard of that, so that was kind of a cool snap into history. In 1993, the Great Flood of 1993 on the Mississippi and Missouri rivers ends, and the worst U.S. flood. It was the worst U.S. flood since 1927. And in 1996, Fox News begins broadcasting the Fox News channel for the first time. 2001 was the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, and in 2003, California voters removed Democratic Governor Gray Davis from office in the state's first successful recall of a sitting governor. And that's all I got for today in history. Let's see if we got any other check-ins. Anybody else out there that want to chime in and say hi?
Didn't know you were that old to keep all that memory there.
I was in 86. I was 7.
Yeah. Oh my God. Where
No,
is
but
it? You know what? You should just to call him out. Call for K4GDI. He was just there.
Who is that?
It's my friend Jamie.
I'm not doing that.
He was just there.
All right, KN6DAL. Let's move on to our topic for the night. So, we thought it would be kind of cool to talk about the phonetic alphabet, and more so not just what it is, but kind of where it come from. And I want to give tribute to the author of this article that I'm going to lean on a little bit here, which is Christine Hall Geisler. This article was written September 8th of 2021, so thank you for the information and compiling it for us. And, you know, you see it all the time. It happens when we watch movies, especially war movies. You hear a crackle come over someone's radio and a voice cuts through the static and says, Alpha Bravo, this is Foxtrot Victor, report your position over, that kind of thing. You know, we all know by now that those aren't just code names. They're actually used to describe something. And the actors who are playing soldiers in these hypothetical movies are using the phonetic alphabet. It's also known as the NATO phonetic alphabet or military alphabet, where each letter is assigned a full word. And this may seem entirely unnecessary to take, say, A and have it say alpha, but think about back in that scene, the static of the radio, maybe the sounds of gunfire or air raids, maybe other soldiers are barking orders and answering. There's a lot of commotion going on. Now imagine trying to get a clear and concise message to somebody else through all that noise. I don't know, many of you may have, you know, had conversations on HF where it's really challenging to copy what somebody is saying, and so they have to say it over and over again. And that, in a sense, is what that's used for. So also, like in real life situations where you've tried to spell your name or maybe an email address while you're on the phone, you've probably heard people make up a phonetic alphabet. Like, you know, you would say S as in Sam or super, or A as in alpha, or I'm sorry, apple or something like that, or M as in music. they'll just use something to try to help enunciate that word to clarify it if they don't hear you correctly. When people mostly communicated by writing letters, this wasn't a problem, but as audio communication became more widespread, this kind of clarity became necessary. The first phonetic alphabet was actually invented in the 1920s by the International Telecommunications Union, according to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is NATO. It used geographical names for each letter, like Amsterdam, Baltimore, Casablanca, Denmark, and so forth. And in 1941, in the time of World War II, the U.S. Army and Navy created a Abel-Baker alphabet, which was also adopted by the UK. And it used shorter everyday words for names like Abel, Baker, Charlie, dog, easy, fox, etc. 10 years later, the International Air Transport Association, which is the IATA, revised this alphabet to be less English-centric. So the words used are still in English, but they were considered more universal, and they incorporated sounds that were common to English, French, and Spanish, like alpha, Bravo, Coca, Delta, etc. And in 1956, NATO allies decided to adopt one phonetic alphabet for all members to use, which was only changing a few letters from the previous version, and that's the alphabet that we use today. And that's listed as such: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo, Lima, Mike, November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, Uniform, Victor, Whiskey, X-Ray, Yankee, and Zulu. One thing that I wanted to point out on this is that, sometimes the phonetic alphabet, at least for me, because I have no military background, when I got into amateur radio was the very first time that I even started using the phonetic alphabet. It was challenging for me at first. And what I did was I went online and I just Google searched the phonetic alphabet and found A next to alpha and B next to Bravo. And I printed that off and I kept it in a little notebook with me so that way I could reference it to kind of sound like I knew what I was talking about because I heard everybody else doing it. And then I found the usefulness in it when I was trying to, get my call sign across or make sure somebody understood exactly what I was saying. And that's what helped me learn it. And after a very short time, it just kind of became second nature. And now kind of everybody that I talk to knows exactly what I'm talking about. You can use your name phonetically, your call sign phonetically, anything that you need to get across and someone can't quite hear exactly what you're saying. 2-meter simplex, it's really popular when people do SOTA activations to use phonetic alphabets to get their information across. So it's definitely encouraged. If you don't know it, make up whatever you need to do, and just as you learn, it'll become more natural. This is Nick, Kilo November 6, Delta Alpha Lima. I'm going to let this drop.
You gotta look at Discord what Striker just sent in the general chat. That's funny.
Okay, I will. All right, so this alphabet is used pretty much anywhere that clear audio communication is of the highest importance and English is being spoken. Military forces, emergency services, disaster response teams, they all use some version of the phonetic alphabet to spell out critical terms. And so this is something that so the NATO phonetic alphabet is not the same as the international phonetic alphabet. That gets a lot more confusing. The international phonetic alphabet is a system for representing every sound used in every human language on Earth, and it uses 163 characters, including letters, diacritics, and prosodic marks to show how words are pronounced. Most Wikipedia entries use the IPA right at the top so that you can learn how to say people's names or pronounce terms correctly. That's when you see something, this is how it sounds versus the way it's written. There's an entire phonetic alphabet related to that. So if you're interested, you can research that a little bit. We're definitely not going to go into that tonight, but also another little interesting piece of information. So with that, that's all I got. And is there anybody out there that has any comments or any experiences that they want to share with the phonetic alphabet? We need to find a cricket sound. Cricket, cricket.
Got you.
See if I get you guys on the radio, KN6BXX. Good evening, Connor and Nick.
Well, good evening, Michael from Carmichael. How are you doing tonight?
Guys, well, what's going on? I'm off tomorrow, scheduled off tomorrow, so I could sneak in tonight. Usually I'm in bed by now. But anyway, I don't know if you saw my comments earlier. When it comes to phonetics, I've got the little print out of what's listed from ARRL, but I still gravitate towards the old public safety, like police and fire ones. Like, for example, Adam instead of Alpha, Baker instead of Bravo, Tom instead of Tango, etc. So I kind of easily gravitate towards phonetics. I have to catch myself and try to stick with the ITU ones. But it's a great topic. Yeah, phonetics are great. It's helpful to make sure that you understand what people are doing, especially with call signs. Back to you, Nick, and I'll be listening for a bit longer, but I got to head out the bed soon. Have a great night, 7-3. Take care.
All right, KN6BXX, Michael from Carmichael. Thanks for checking in with us tonight, and appreciate your comments. You're always welcome. Always good to have you. Anybody else out there? Come on in now.
I had it on my soundboard. I had to find it.
Awesome. I'm going to have to take that. Well, I can probably mute you if I need to.
No.
Take it way too far. I got to be careful because we're not supposed to I'm not transmitting right now, but we're not supposed to transmit like sounds and blips, that kind of thing over the air.
Yeah.
So be really careful.
Oh, I've heard a few key ups. Oh, Bert's here.
All right. I didn't hear any traffic there. Let's pass it over to Connor. Connor, tell us a little bit about the phonetic alphabet and how you use it.
Yeah, this is Connor, K7CBL. How I use the phonetic alphabet. So on repeaters, I typically, unless I'm really scratchy into the repeater, I don't use the phonetic alphabet. And similar to you, Nick, when I first got my license, I'm trying to find it here. I have a laminated card with the phonetic alphabet. And I think I maybe gave it to a new ham. Maybe that's why I can't find it. But I had a really difficult time. But I had this little, I went to Google, search it up, and I just printed it and laminated it and carried it with me wherever I went. Like I said, repeaters, I don't typically use it unless I'm trying to specifically say something and the person's not understanding it. Like if I'm trying to read out a model number or something like that, I use it. But when it comes to, HF or simplex or just a really distant contact, yeah, the phonetics are really, really helpful. If you don't use them, just saying, K7CBL, someone might, misinterpret it. I have people misinterpret it all the time. But regardless of using phonetics, I still have people with my call sign being a 7. People still think my call sign is 6. So when I come up on a local repeater and I go K7CBL, someone's like, oh, K6CBL, because they immediately think, they're local. So it can be helpful. I know numbers aren't necessarily considered phonetic, but it can be helpful, but at the same time, it really depends on how the other person copies it. Sometimes you'll hear you'll hear Mike pronounced as Mary, or Mexico. Everybody kind of has their own little thing. Some people refer to their call signs as, just funny. Their call signs in a way I had this one guy, his call sign is Kilo 6 Charlie Victor, and he refers to his call sign as Kilo 6 coronavirus. So everybody kind of has their own little spin off of their call sign. So it depends. As long as you get your call sign across and the person copies it and confirms it, that's all that really matters. And it doesn't matter how you get there. It's just as long as you get there, it works out. That's all I had to say. K7CBL, back to you, Nick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Connor. KN60AL. You know, another thing that I noticed, like working HF, is your call sign phonetically and how it sounds can be the difference between whether you make it in through a pileup or not. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I haven't changed my call sign. It's not the only reason, but I really like the D after 6. So when you say Delta, it kind of pops, and I've had people call me out just by the Delta station come back, you know, and so you can tell that the way you say it phonetically can really change the way someone hears you, and that's not as needed on, you know, repeaters or anything like that, because you're typically not trying to break through a pile up on a repeater. There are some that you are, but for the most part, it's usually one person talking at a time. But on simplex and definitely on HF, it can be one of those things where it really makes a big difference in whether you're going to make that contact or you're going to sit on the sidelines and wait. So definitely learn it, and again, like what everybody else has said, I'll just mirror that. If you don't know it, it's not a big deal if you get a word wrong or you say, you know, you use the wrong word to represent a letter. The main thing is as you grow, you're going to become more proficient in it. So looks like we got Bert joined us here in the Zoom chat. Bert, how you doing tonight?
Good. November 6th, Echo Foxtrot Romeo. Yeah, I had the same problem as well, like beginning or whatever. I mean, still kind of am, where it's mostly on HF where I'll use the phonetic alphabets, and calling CQ or anything like that, or even calling into a pileup, and it's just trying to get in there with the November, the 6, and then the Echo. The Foxtrot, it seems kind of long. Sometimes I'll be going in with Fox, or sometimes instead of Romeo, I'll go radio. And but then you hear all the other ones where it's like the radio station come in or the Echo station come in, and but then you hear like the other ones where it's like Japan or um, what's the other one I hear a lot? Nancy a lot, and the other one's not. I can't remember the other. Yeah, Mexico's the other one too. Yeah. But yeah, I hear those a lot.
That's awesome. Thanks, Bert. This is Nick KN60AL. I started laughing. I read, so Stryker posted this link on Discord, and it's called the Extremely Confusing Phonetic Alphabet. Once we jump off of the air, I'm gonna share screen and post this. So it's hilarious, and we can dive into that a little bit. That's pretty funny. Yeah. So I had a thought, but I forgot what it was because he distracted. Yeah, now I don't know what I'm
I
gonna
got
do.
something.
Yeah, go ahead,
something.
Connor.
Yeah, K7CBL. One thing I will say that I always do, regardless if it's a repeater, simplex, HF, anytime there is a net and I'm reading off my call sign to check into the net, I always go phonetically. If you just go K7CBL and you check into a net, sometimes people mistake what you're saying, or you're way too fast for net control. Or even if you go K7CBL, sometimes people still don't copy it. But if you go Kilo 7 Charlie Bravo Lima, they copy it. It gives them more time to write it down and follow up. So definitely net control, and we encourage that for the Two-Mirror Crew anti-net. If you can, check in phonetically, because it is easier for us to copy your call signs. Although we don't require it, it's just a lot easier for us.
That is true.
But yeah, like as I would go by on Discord, and I'll sometimes do it like when I would be doing field day, when I was using Whiskey 6 Victor Romeo. I would come up as, you know, Whiskey 6 Victor Radio, or, you know, Whiskey 6 Victor insert some word that has surrounds the letter R. If you want to drop, Nick, because I don't know if we're still going live on the air.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we're back on the air. You know, as I go by a lot, just to break a pile up, especially even though I do 2 meter simplex and 2 meter sideband and it's somewhat active, you know, sometimes going out as, you know, King 7 Charles Boy Lincoln, it catches people's attention, and it still is phonetic, so people, you know, it is still technically a-okay to say on the radio. But yeah, definitely adding a little spin tail to your call sign. You know, if you end in Lima, change it to Lincoln if you're trying to break through a pile up, and the, you know, person in the Lincoln station go again, and then you're like, all right, that's me, time to go. So it's definitely helpful. But yeah, nets and pile ups, definitely do it phonetically and try to put a spin onto it, make it your own. K7CBL.
All right, thanks, Connor. Nick, KN6DAL here, Kilo November 6, Delta Alpha Lima, phonetically. Anybody else out there want to chime in and say hi? Come on in.
Yeah, they stated the word phonetically post saying phonetics.
Whiskey Alpha 6, November Delta Romeo.
You're welcome, Nick.
Rick, how's it going tonight? Whiskey Alpha 6, November Delta Romeo. This is KN6DAL. Back to you. So funny.
Yeah, I wanted to say a couple things. So my call, Whiskey Alpha 6, November Delta Romeo, is 13 syllables. And if you've never done that, add up the number of syllables in your call. And I have had problems with this just because of the amount of time it takes to say Whiskey Alpha 6 November Delta Romeo. If you're in a pile-up or anything like that, this is where it really pays to have a vanity call, because you can make them short, and just the amount of time it takes to say it becomes an important factor. So I'd be curious, does anybody have more than 13 syllables? And another thing is, yes, I agree, whenever it's anything official, give your call phonetically. But when I'm with friends, sometimes I use Willie assembled 6 non-destructible radios, and wondered if anybody else had anything similar for their calls. So back to you, Nick.
Hey, thanks, Rick. You know, as you were talking, obviously, I think 90% of us were probably sitting there adding up how many syllables were in our call sign phonetically. I'm at 12. What do you got, Bert?
I'm at 11.
11. Connor?
Syllables. That's the one you clap out, right? Where you go
boy.
Kilo.
We'll come back to Connor. We'll give him a little bit of time to add that up. But yeah,
needs
13,
a calculator for it.
13 is quite a bit. Like now, I'm starting to think of the people that have like the call sign in, like in their suffix. November, November, November.
Yeah.
That's a lot right there. You know, that's 9 just in your suffix. That's pretty cool. And for me to answer your question, Rick, I've thought about it. I haven't came up with anything cool to assign to DAL. I wish I had. Yours is pretty cool. I would like just one of those non-destructible radios if I can get my hands on one. But Bert, have you came up with anything for your call sign that is phonetic but different than what you would normally use in the normal phonetic alphabet?
I've come up with extra fine radios for one, and then I forgot what I used for the N, but yeah, that was one of them. What was the other one? I think because I put it in Discord once, and I think that's what I came up with. It was around the time when Kellen was putting out his extra tall burritos out for his, and just like I would just come up with other things for myself, and I was just like, all right, extra fine radios or extra fancy radios. The other one.
I got my answer. 10 syllables.
10.
All right, so Connor's got 10 syllables. I'm at 12, and Bert, you were 11, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Rick, I think you take the cake on 13. So let's see. Anybody else out there on the radio have anything more than 13 for the amount of syllables in their phonetic call sign? Come on in now.
God, it sounded like an elementary school teacher. I literally started clapping him out. I went,
Hold on.
Charlie.
Oh, somebody tried to jump in.
Kilo 7.
All right, I heard a quick key up and almost something audible. You want to try it again? Anybody with more than 13? I mean, heck, anybody that can count the amount of syllables that are in their call sign is welcome to come in and say hi. This is Nick, KN60AL. Come on in now.
All right, I'll just leave then. Leave Zoom meeting.
K7, I believe in unicorns.
IBU.
KN60AL to K7, I believe in unicorns. One of my favorite calls that I just found out 5 seconds ago. Take it away.
That's Striker. That's Striker.
Hey, this is K7 IBU. My previous call sign was Kilo Foxtrot 7 Whiskey November Charlie. That was 13 syllables, and I got rid of that for the vanity, so K7 IBU is what I picked, but IBU specifically because I'm a home brewer, and IBU is International Bitterness Units, which is how hoppy a beer is. I believe in unicorns is also a fun one.
That's absolutely hilarious, and I love it. Thank you for that, Striker. That's awesome. Anybody else out there want to jump in and say hi? Come on in now.
This is November 6th, Echo Tango Romeo.
N6 ETR. Right?
Dan.
Yeah, it's Dan.
Yeah, it's Dan.
Hey, Dan, N6 ETR. What's your favorite way to say your call sign? What do you got?
Well, I take a little bit of pride in memorizing the NATO phonetic alphabet relatively quickly, so I usually leave it that way. But I like to say November 6th, eat that radio on occasion.
Only if we had an ETM, eat that mic.
Yeah, Connor just said only if you had ETM eat that mic, but eat that radio would be good to say to somebody if they're just talking too quiet away from the mic. Say, hey, eat that radio, and then you could pop up and go, hey, what's going on? That's awesome. How you doing tonight, Dan?
This is what we've turned into.
I know.
I'm doing all right, guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry I joined the conversation late, but I enjoy the topic. So if I may go off on a brief tangent here, I dabble in old Heathkit tube transceivers, and my previous call was KN6 ETR, Kilo November 6, Echo Tango Romeo. And I found that the Kilo just wasn't heard very well over HF, so I dropped it in favor of the Vanity 5-character call when I obtained my general. And with old Heathkit transceivers and a homemade long wire antenna, I tended to shout into the microphone, so eat that radio was fitting.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you checking in with us tonight, and hopefully some of you guys can jump in on Zoom. We're going to be posting a link here pretty quick if anybody wants to chime in on Zoom. We'll take a couple last calls, see if anybody else is out there, and then we'll post that link. Is there anybody else that wants to check into the 2-meter crew Antoinette? Come on in now.
I can post a link.
Okay,
whenever
yeah,
you're
you
ready.
can go ahead.
Should I just send it? Okay.
Yeah, send it.
Just say it's in chat. It's in chat now.
All right, that Zoom link has been posted. It's up in the YouTube chat. If anybody's interested in joining us on Zoom, you're welcome to come in now, and we'll get you in here. Appreciate that, Connor. He's posted it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, so 5 times, 6 times. We're just gonna keep going, and he won't stop. But yeah, anybody else want to check in and say hi before we shut it down and return the repeaters back to normal operation? Here's your last chance. Come on in.
I sent it 10 times, Nick. You need to go back to counting school.
Well, they're just coming up on my feed as I go.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to correct that for you? Can somebody mute him, please? All right, KN6DAL here. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Hopefully y'all can join in on Zoom and say hi. We're going to return these repeaters back to normal operation and quit holding them hostage. Again, big thanks to Freestar out in the UK. You guys are awesome. The Vaca Valley Radio Club, all your support. Definitely go check that club out if anybody's in the Northern California area. It's a great club to be a part of. And then also all of the people that have put all the effort into keeping those digital connections going. We really appreciate everybody, and I'll say 7-3, and have a good night. This is Kilo November 6, Delta Alpha Lima, signing off, moving over to Zoom.
You on FRD? Hey, me, Ted, and Chris been mixing it up on Simplex. Miss ya, Nick.
You're killing me, Fred. I said I was done, but I'm coming back for you. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, go get it. Are you up on a peak right now?
I'm just driving up to pick up my son, and I was hearing Ted down in Martinez on Alamo Drive in Vacaville. I was talking to Chris on Peabody. Oh, it's 2 meters is traveling far tonight.
Yeah, you know, if you ever get a chance, I'm sure you probably have, Fred, but if anybody ever gets a chance, go out and check some of the records, the ARRL records on 2-meter simplex contacts, and it will blow your mind. But with that, I am going to break off the repeaters here and kill the connections and let everybody else use all of the systems that are all integrated right now. So I will say 7-3, and if you're free, Fred, you're welcome to jump on Zoom, and anybody else out there. And I extend that invitation as well. We'll be hanging out here for just a little bit. So 7-3 to everybody. We'll see y'all shortly. KN6DAL.
You forgot to say like
CFR.
and subscribe.
All right, 7-3, Nick. Just wanted to jump in and say hi.
Like and subscribe, Nick. Do it. Do it. Chase the clout.
I didn't
Chase
do
the
it.
clout.
Chase the clout. No, I don't care. I really don't. It's sad, but it's so sad.
You're just giving up. You're just like,
Thank you to all the people that decide to come. You're doing it on your own free will. We know it for sure.
7 people.
It's all about having fun, man. It's all about, those are my
So, Nick,
favorite times.
How many people do you have held hostage right now watching the stream?
10. There's 10 people
Damn.
watching. Yeah.
Thank
you all so much.
Control room and me.
Minus 3. I'm
Huh?
in there.
Oh, somebody left. Boo.
Yeah, everybody's leaving. That's okay.
Boo.
That's
Join
all
the
right.
Zoom people.
What's going on, Rick?
Hey, I've got a question for Connor. I saw somebody ask him, what is that display on your left? Is that railroad cars or what? We can't quite see it on the wall.
The display on my... Oh,
Up
here.
above your bed.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was younger... Well, okay, so obviously there's a few missing, but that's my radio... That's my handheld shelf.
Oh.
I've
This
got...
Is this Thomas the Train
dude,
collection?
I got Baofangs, I got a retro Motorola 900 or 800 phone. I got a bunch of stuff. I got handhelds, I've got HT1000s, I've got everything, like all my retro stuff. Stuff that my dad would throw away, but I took it because I was like, Motorola.
I get it. Okay.
And then above it is all John Deere tractors, and I'm actually gonna move those, mostly John Deere tractors.
Hey, Connor, don't you have a railroad set, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did. Yeah. There was, because someone had commented, they had asked if that was real. Oh, it was Michael from Carmichael, but we were talking about that at one point on Discord, and like a bunch of people came out of the woodworks and and had railroad stuff, and
so my dad is uber into it. We just don't have anywhere to put it up.
My brother is way into it too.
the original plan was to remove the pond in the backyard and the water feature behind it and put another shed in. But then my mom, so no shed.
Overruled.
Yeah, overruled. But no, we always, for a long time, we actually did the train under the Christmas tree when I was really, really young. And we had my dad, he's been doing it since he was, my dad's been doing it since he was probably below the age of 10. So that's how big my dad's into it. One thing I do is I help build. I think I've done about 50 of them. Raspberry Pi streamers that are throughout the United States right now. I know there's a few still here in California. We haven't sent them anywhere. My buddy runs a website, railroadradio.net, as you heard it, railroadradio.net. If you check it out, there is quite literally probably a stream per your county, maybe 2 streams. It's all the analog VHF, most of them are analog VHF, radio traffic for the rail lines. And
cool.
I build the Raspberry Pis with their RF or their audio filters and their breakout cables and stuff like that. And then my buddy who runs it takes them, slaps a radio onto the cable, connects the cable to the connector, and then just boxes it with packing material and ships it to somebody. So I think there's over 100 live radio feeds, and they're all Motorola's, so the audio, and they're all GM300s or CDM series radios, so the audio quality is amazing. It's definitely worth a listen. Even if you don't like train stuff, you hear, especially if there's a stream near a yard, you hear stuff on the guys talking on the radios while the trains are in the yard, and it's really funny. Yeah, Nick's pulling it up on stream right now. If you hover over, let's just say, I don't know, Nick, go to Western, go somewhere near you.
Yeah, Western has a lot of our stuff. So Truckee is represented there. There's Wenatchee in Washington. There's also, it looks
That's
like
a
the
yard.
Scenic Sub. Okay, so that's these are all different
click
yards.
on one. No, they're not all yards. It depends on where we can get a node host. So like click on so you can, this website, mind you, he's been doing this for a very long time. This is my mentor's website. His call sign is Kilo Romeo 6 Western Pacific. He loves his rail stuff. All those pictures were, I believe, taken by him, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, you can download them for VLC, Windows Media Player. Some of them have links to I forget the name of the server. TuneIn. I really want to help him update the website. It's just there's too many things going on. But yeah, as Nick is showing there, there is it shows pretty much everything, all the information there. And those are, I believe, detectors, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty cool. For a one-man operation, he built this website and did all the work behind it. For a one-man operation, it's phenomenal. So yeah, definitely, if you like it, railroadradio.net. I'll post the link, or Nick can, in the... I got it, actually. It's already up. I'll post it in the chat of the YouTube. It's definitely worth just looking to see what's around you. Maybe listening on a consistent basis. But yeah, the stuff those guys say on the radio, it's just funny. If you've ever wanted to hear somebody get yelled at over the radio, that's at the railroad's the best.
That's funny.
Stop the train! It's 5,000 pounds per wheel. Like, it's kind of funny. So definitely give it a listen if you have something in your area.
This was Stryker is coming in just in time because I am gonna share. This is so funny.
Where is it?
Oh.
All right, so. This is the
yeah.
extremely confusing phonetic alphabet.
Read it out loud. Read them all
I can't
out
even
loud,
pronounce
Nick.
half this stuff. A, aisle. Could you imagine saying some of these on air? R, B is BBQ and Bjork. C is Q and cease. Double is W. I can't even read them all. I just keep laughing. D is
you
what?
need me to read them, Nick?
Yeah,
you
go
need
ahead.
me to read them? Okay. A
A-okay?
is aisles. I'm gonna read the first line. I'm not gonna read the second ones. B is BBQ. C is Q. D is W. E is ISA, and the second one is notable. Eulogy idiot. F is 4chan. G is gnome. H is herb. I is Ian IOU1. J is jalapeno. K is night. L is lol. M is mnemonic. N is enter. O is a Ouija board.
Enter.
P is does that say paralysis? Q is cucumber. R is are you listening? S is C or dyslexic. T is tsunami. U is Uber or W. Again, V is 5. W is right. Y. X is xylophone. Y is U, or Z is xylophone, or zebra shark. Imagine saying that on the radio. Hold on. What? Let me try
V
my
like
sign.
5.
Yeah. Hold on.
Hey,
Okay,
Stryker.
Nick.
Hey, I have a question for you. You said that you got this call sign. What did IBU actually stand for again?
So IBU is International Bitterness Units. It's a measurement of how hoppy a beer is.
Okay. I was just looking that up, and I was like, what did he say, and what is he doing? All right.
So wife and I are both home brewers. My wife's actually a pro brewer. And was definitely a lot shorter than KF7 WNC. So thought that was a good one to go to.
Yeah. Now, Rick was saying, Rick, you brought up the amount of syllables, and you kind of were the winner. So why haven't you? Is your call sign the original call sign that you got, or have you changed it? And if so, why didn't you come up with something shorter?
It used to be it's always just been that. And when I got my first license, it was novice. So it was WN6. So the alpha went to November. That was an extra syllable. So that one was 14.
Wow.
But then when I got, my next class license, it changed to an A. So anyway, it's just what I've had my whole life. But yeah, fortunately, I've never been much of a contester or DX chaser or whatever, because it's a terrible call for that.
Yeah. I was really excited. I made a contact. This is the longest contact mobile I've ever made, and it was barely even mobile because I'm running it's a really inexpensive antenna for HF mobile. It's an OPEC 400, and it's one of those ones that you can just there's a jumper that plugs in on the side of it that you can apply for different bands that you're operating on, and I typically just leave it on 20 meters. And I decided, for the heck of it, I was on a lunch break and I was on my way back to work, and I threw my KX2 in my truck. And this was because the contest last weekend was the California QSO contest on HF. And so the whole idea behind the California QSO contest is, the people in California are trying to make contacts with other states. Other states are trying to make contact with other counties in California. And so it's a fun little contest. I'm not much of a contester either, but I do like getting on, breaking through a pileup and giving points to people. I think it's fun. And so I was originally standing out back. I pulled out the KX2 and I put the AX1 antenna on it, which is like this Elecraft antenna that it makes it basically a HF handy talkie, essentially. So you can like literally just hold it in your hand, and I just tried it, and I made contact with a guy down in Los Angeles on it, and so I was like, that's cool. And so on my way to work the next day on my lunch break, I threw it in the truck, and I heard this guy calling in from Barcelona, calling CQDX from Barcelona. Wow. I'm like, all right, I'm on 10 watts on a very, very far from anything decent as far as an antenna. On just a kind of hack job vertical, And I just threw my call sign out there, and he heard me, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Haven't even measured the distance, but I just made a contact with Spain driving in my truck. It was insane. And so for those of you that I literally felt like a kid that just got a toy at Christmas. I was so excited. And that I don't know how to even describe how much that makes me want to just keep doing HF, you know? So for those of you out there that just have your technician or are interested in maybe upgrading and getting more involved in HF, those are the types of things that you have to look forward to. It was an absolute blast to play around and make a contact like that. So pretty cool.
I got a question for you, Nick. Since you own the KX2, have you ever messed with the IC705, which is ICOM's version of it, or have you ever looked into purchasing it before you got the KX2?
No, in fact, you know, I've had. Let me turn off screen sharing here. I've had I had a few pros and cons that I was looking at because I had a 705 in a cart for HRO, and I was ready to order it, ready to go. And I'm one of those people that, like, when I'm looking at buying something, especially when it's new like that, I really look at all the features, and I just go back and forth, and I can't make up my mind for anything. And so I'm looking at all the features and benefits of these different essentially soda friendly radios, or ultra portable radios. And there was a couple cons I guess I should say not cons, because the 705 is awesome, right? There are so many things that are super cool about that radio, but there were some things that it didn't have that I was looking for. One of them was a tuner. Didn't have an incorporated internal tuner, which the KX2 has a very versatile tuner built in. Two was the size. The KX2 is, to my knowledge, the smallest full functioning HF radio that performs on a majority of the bands. It doesn't have 6 meters. You know, it also lacks 2 meter 440. So they're really different radios when you start looking at the nuts and bolts of them. But then also was power consumption too. You know, when you're out doing a soda activation and you're out in the field, or even if you're just going camping or whatever, you know, power consumption becomes less of a commodity and more important. And the KX2 draws hardly any power. It's like 0.17 amps on receipt. Like, it's nothing, right?
That little 6 amp hour got us through field day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you were on that for like 2 hours straight, just trying.
Yeah, I've got a couple
hystericalness.
I've got a couple internal batteries that they'll last like 4 or 5 hours easy, and so it's really, really versatile to have in that fact. It does lack a waterfall. Doesn't have any kind of visual aid. So you're dealing with radios that don't have that feature. And for me, that wasn't a deal breaker, I guess. There's a lot of people in the ham radio world that grew up without waterfalls, and they functioned just fine. Now, I'm not going to argue that the visual aid of a waterfall is awesome to have, especially when you're at home, and you're just, you know, spanning through the bands. But when you're out in the field or you're doing a soda activation or something, you're typically getting on a frequency and you're calling out and you're trying to draw people to you instead of chasing other people around. But either way, there are two different radios for two different things. I think if it was something where I liked to go, I didn't like hiking, but I liked going outside and going to parks, I would probably get more involved in that, because I think the 705 is a little bit more apt towards digital modes and stuff like that. It also does 2 meter single sideband, but only at 5 watts or something to that. I don't remember if it's 5 or 10, but not enough that it mattered. What's that?
Yeah, I think it's 5 watts for 2 meters.
Yeah,
it's just the same as a handheld. What really kind of I want it, but I'm not gonna spend the money on it.
Right, the cost was a factor too. You know, they're expensive.
Yeah, the really cool thing is, I mean, I don't have any ICOM radios other than my Airband. But the what do you call it? The capability to put the handheld battery into it, that was one thing I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But if you were to choose, if you didn't have the 705 and you didn't have the KX2, but you have your G90, right? what would be your choice for you to end up purchasing for what you do? Would you still like want the KX2, or would you rather go for like the 705? Is it?
I would get the KX2 hands down. I just think we didn't even talk about receive quality, right? So the receive quality on Elecraft as a whole is just unmatched. It's just phenomenal. It's better hands down than any other radio that I own. By far superior to the G90. It's impressively better than the Yaesu 991A, which is a good radio. I like that radio. I've got a ICOM 706, which is a really good receive radio, and the KX2 it just smokes them all. It's just it's got good filtering on it. It's got a really narrow filter for CW. It's just all around. It's a really good radio. The con that I would say is the CW decoder doesn't work very well on it. So if you're not proficient, which I'm not, if you're not proficient in CW, the decoder isn't as useful. The decoder in the Xiegu G90 is really good. But I'll be honest with you, that's about the only thing that I really truly like about the G90. A lot of people love that radio, and I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan of it. I've tried it. I really truly think the audio sucks on the G90. Appallingly horrible in my opinion compared to any. Now I haven't really done any real remote SOTA activations with it, and I think that's where it really does better, where it doesn't have any other interfering noise, but it just doesn't sound good to me. It just doesn't, it's like if I hooked up my Elecraft in my truck and tuned in a station, and then I went and did the same thing with that G90 on the same antenna, everything, you would barely hear the station through the noise on the G90. I mean, I'm talking barely, if at all. And then that Elecraft, it sounds like they're standing right there in front of you talking. It's such an impressive difference that I don't see myself getting anything else, but I almost got that 705, and I know I would have been happy with it. It's just more techy.
Can I screen share? I'd like to show a radio that's maybe some of you saw.
Yeah, go for it, Rick.
Okay.
Oh, I need
to enable. Host
enable.
disabled participant screen share.
Hold on, I'm working. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. This is from Discord. One of the memes. Did you guys see this? It's 2 meter cruise.
I posted that. I posted that one in there.
Yeah, I mean, if I could trade all my radios in for this one, I would.
I laughed out loud when I read this. It's pretty cool.
I hear they're back ordered right now, Rick. You can't even really get your hands on them.
Yeah.
I for sure want 500 watts next to my head when I transmit.
Yeah. And I think that's medium power for that thing. It's. Oh no, that's high power. It's high power. Okay, but I mean, still,
it does all band, bro. It does infrared and extra high frequency.
Yeah, and it includes. Did you guys see this? It includes a lighter and a flashlight. Like,
yeah, you transmit anything near the antenna, and like,
Could you imagine that you key up and you just like light a cigar with it?
As everything around you just goes. Yeah. What I will say though, kind of because of what we were just talking about, and this, one thing I really don't like, in this hobby, and it really bugged me when I first got into digital. There was a radio. It was at Pacificon. I saw YouTube videos on it. It was a VHF 220 440, I think it even did 900, excuse me, and it did all modes, AM, FM, sideband, CW, and then it did all digital modes. It claimed to do D-Star Fusion, DMR, it said it did everything, right? The radio was on Kickstarter for like $1,000. It also is a 50-watt radio, and it had GPS and APRS. So it's like everything you could want in a ham radio, essentially. But it was a Kickstarter, and it never came to. And I've watched a few ham radio Kickstarters for like all band or all mode radios or whatever, and none of them really take off. And it's definitely stressful, especially when somebody like ICOM comes out with the 705. because one thing I know about the 705 is it took, even after it was fully released, it took numerous firmware updates just to get it to work perfectly. So if the radio even makes it, you know, onto the market, and this goes for big vendors or like the Kickstarters, there's so many firmware updates that have to happen prior to the radio pretty much being usable, because I know like the 705 had some like features that just straight up didn't work, like I believe like the very first one that got mailed out, the waterfall didn't work or something like that, and they had to do a firmware update to patch it. So
right. And you know, the thing with, like,
yeah.
I had mentioned the tuner, you know, so a tuner isn't like, I don't even use a tuner. I don't use an antenna tuner at all in my shack for anything, right? Now out in the field, it's nice to have something so that you can just touch it up, and if your antenna's not perfect or whatever, that's not necessarily a deal breaker as far as between those two radios. But what I would advise is that if you're newer to radio, or you just got your general, or you're the type of person, because we're not all tinkerers, not everybody wants to build, you know, some people just want to get on and talk. A radio without a tuner is not the radio for you. If you don't want to build and play and learn and adjust your antenna and make sure everything's right, and spend that time in the technical aspect of it, because you just need to do that in order to use that radio effectively. Whereas, like, that's where the benefit of like the G90, and I don't want to dog it to the point that people are like, I'm not going to ever go get that radio, because listen, if all you have is $500 and you need something that you can buy, plug into power, and then run an alligator clip to a 2x4 and tune that thing up as an antenna, that G90 will do it. No problem. There's nothing that I have been able to not tune into, and I haven't tried everything, but there's a lot of YouTubers out there that have. There's a lot of people that have said, hey, let's try this on the G90 and see if it works. It's super versatile. The audio just sucks. So if you're buying something that you want the best, clearest audio, that you're going to make the best, longest contacts, that, you know, you're going to grow in the hobby with, that's not the radio to buy. But if you've scraped together $500 and you're looking for something, yeah, and you want a warranty, get it. If you want to, you know, trust in your ham community, I would say maybe look at something used, and you know, you can find some good quality stuff that Elmer's. I think most of the ham radio community isn't out to take advantage of people, so they're usually selling, you know, stuff that they know works.
Is it the speaker sucks or the received quality sucks?
I think both.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else here own a G90 that wants to comment on it, or am I on an island here?
I think you're alone.
Just you.
I was gonna say, earbuds would solve your problem. Just the cheap like came from like the Dollar Tree type earbuds. They're super lightweight, literally, because there's nothing in them.
Yeah.
But like that solves your problem, or get some nice headsets. But if it's the receive quality, you can't change that within a pair
Well,
of
it's not
headphones.
just that. So it doesn't really have the best filtering on it, right? So like with the Elecraft or the Yaesu 991A, or even the ICOM 706, like all those radios I described, I believe the FT, I've used a FT 450D. I really liked that radio. That's a good Yaesu radio. They all have digital noise reduction, so you can really help break through some of the you know, the noise, especially in high noise floor situations and stuff. And that Zygu just doesn't have any of that, and so it's just constantly fighting static and constantly fighting noise floor. And, now the waterfall on it for its microscopic little display is honestly phenomenal. Like, it's
I was messing with it.
I would say the waterfall on the Zygu G90 is better than the waterfall on the FT991. Not in clarity and maybe not in sensitivity, but like you can adjust the sensitivity like you can on a 7300. You can't do that on a 991A. And again, those are two compared radios in the ham radio world, but two different sets of features, you know.
Hey, you've got.
So you have the amp on that KX2.
What's that?
You have the amp. You have the amp on the KX2.
I don't have an amp for it. No, I thought about it. Now I can run. I have a cable. I can run it to my my Elecraft, or I'm sorry, my Heathkit SB201, and I've done that. So I can put out about 100 watts or so, 120 watts.
And Nick, you're still connected to the P25, by the way. I just heard VVR ID over it.
Oh yeah, I turned off the node. I'll disconnect everything right now. Everybody's
Yeah,
probably
I tried getting in on Dude Star because Connor, that beta version of the Droid Star, that no longer works. Remember that link and stuff, the whatever the developer link.
on what kind of
Yeah,
platform? Phone, computer?
iOS.
Oh, okay.
iOS.
Yeah, iOS.
So I don't know if anybody's listening, but I'll just keep talking anyways.
I'm listening.
It's a lease. It's a lease on the Apple test flight. When you're a developer, it's a lease. So the lease went up. So I can send you the link again so that you can get access to it. You just got to do the same thing as we did before. Just tap on the link and hit install.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
For Droid Star?
Yeah, because iOS. Yeah.
I'd always wondered that because I always thought it was just an Android thing, and it's like, oh, I can't get that.
No, it
Connor can hook you up.
Yeah, they brought it onto the You want me to send you the link, Bert?
Yeah.
I'll send it to you on Discord. Do you have Discord on your phone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you have to go to the Apple App Store and install an app called Test Flight, and it's official by Apple. Just type in Test Flight, common spelling, and install that.
Can you do that phonetically, please?
Oh,
tell me how many syllables it is.
N-O, November, Oscar, space, golf, Oscar, space, hotel, Oscar, Mike, Echo, go home. Wait, no, go home. Yeah, sorry. Brain stopped working. Okay, so I just sent you the link, Bert, to the test flight. So then once you get test flight installed, then you just tap on that, hit accept, blah, 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 and then click come back and click on it, and it'll say install it, it'll put it on your home screen, and then it's just like Dude Star. You just go into settings, make your changes to your DMR. You're gonna need a hotspot password if you're using the DMR network. If you're trying to do YSF, I think it just requires a DMR ID or whatever.
You went by really, really fast.
Going back to what you were saying, Connor, about the 705 needing multiple firmware updates to get it right. They're still not advertising that they have a CW decoder in the 705, and the hope is that they're going to fix that with a firmware update.
Well, that radio can do that, right? The firmware update, because it's basically a Raspberry Pi inside.
Yeah, it's software defined.
Yeah, but like, for example, the KX2 wouldn't be able to do that.
No.
Because even if they had firmware, I don't know if they have firmware, but
it does.
Even if they had firmware, I don't think you'd be able to do that. Did Did somebody say there is firmware for the KX2?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, you had your camera off. That's why. But yeah. So like CW decode, that wouldn't be able to be done with a firmware update on a KX2, but on ICOM radios it can, and I've seen some cool stuff with those ICOM 705s. Somebody was able to get DMR on it with the cracked firmware. Yeah.
Well, I've got 13.8 volt input on my Yaesu 757, so I think I'll be okay for SOTA. All these new radios.
I was just going over this with Nick before we started. Let me grab it. Where did it go? Alexa?
Yank your mic out.
Cancel. Go away. Okay. So, is everybody here familiar with the West Mountain Radio Epic Power Gate? The thing that switches between 12 volts and battery power on its own? I see Striker. No? Okay. So basically, you give it 12 volts input, and then you hook up your battery into it, and it charges your battery for you, and it has a pass-through of 12 volts. When the power goes out, so say you pull off your DC power supply from the wall, it automatically switches the battery. And then when you plug it back in, it does it again. They're like $250, but on Amazon, you can get the Shuen Zianui for $40, and it's the same thing with Anderson power poles.
Nice.
Yeah, Nick's got. I think is that what? Yeah, that's an older version, right, Nick, or is that a bigger version?
It's older.
Okay, yeah.
It's
So, what did that cost you?
I'd rather not say.
Yeah, see? It costs a lot. $40. It's in my Go box. I've used my Go box to charge my phone, run an LED lamp, and 25 watts on VHF connected to a LiFePO 4 lithium iron phosphate battery. I've done that about 7 times now, full discharge and recharge. Oh, okay, I got you, Nick. But yeah, it costs a lot though. It cost over $100. I got one of these for $40 and put it in my Go box. And it's like it's a killer deal. It's definitely something for Soda Poda if you want to build like a Go box, or even just to have it like velcroed to the side of a battery. That way, if you are in like a park and you don't know if you'll have AC power, I don't know, is Poda, can you do Poda with AC power? Like line power? Is it a rule?
I don't know.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Like at field day, for
I don't know
example,
the
I believe
answer
you get extra points for not running off of line power. But say you operate, your battery dies or you get low, plug it into the wall, and you're charging, you can still operate, or you can just let it charge and then unplug it again. So it's
I was
definitely
joking.
worth it.
I was joking about my radio. It's it's like a 1980s HF radio. I think although I don't have it, the desk mic probably weighs as much as Nick's whole radio or something. Yeah, mine's a boat anchor from the 80s.
I've got a really expensive microphone that a friend of mine gave to me. It's like an 80s microphone as well. I cannot remember the brand of it, but it's brown with gold trim. It's literally poo brown with gold trim. And I have it. I was using it on my Kenwood TS2000, but the pinout was incorrect. When I would hit the push to talk, nothing would happen. So then when I would open mic my radio, because there's a button to automatically start transmitting, click that, hit the PTT, then it would work. But the second I took off the PTT, it wouldn't. The pinout's wrong. But yeah, no, those old microphones, man, you could literally knock someone out with one of those things. They're 5 pounds.
I just meant my radio. That's my old Yaesu is the only HF radio I have. So all these new radios are so fancy and.
I know the newest, the latest and greatest I have is my for HF is my Kenwood TS2000, which is the one that's on where my thumb, above my thumb, right there. That's the newest one I got, other than my shortwave receivers, but that doesn't count. And that thing don't have a waterfall. It has a function called scan though. You turn it on, and it completely shuts off all the audio, and it scans by the kilohertz through the band, and then after 20 seconds of scanning, shows a little spike where somebody was talking. Then you scroll back to it, but the guy's already done and moved on. Really old school waterfall. You really hope they're like long rag chewing going on. That way you can scroll over in time in zero bead. But yeah, so I don't know.
I ended up trading in my Kenwood, what was it, the TS440S for the Yaesu FT891. So I did that through MTC, and I got the what was the trade-in I got it for? So I traded in for $375, I think it was, and then I got whatever I had the offset or whatever is for the cost of the FT91 891.
I gave up on MTC.
Yeah.
I had a couple of radios to trade in. One of them was a TS580 SAT. I still have it. It's in working condition, and is literally brand new. And I just don't have a use for it. It's too big, and I kind of got the TS2000, which is a little bit better. So I tried to use MTC to trade it in for something or to sell it to him. And the guy that I spoke with, I believe the owner of the company, didn't honor the trade. The radio goes for about 500 on eBay, and that was pretty fair. I was asking 250, so that's pretty fair in my opinion. And he was like, I'll give you, I think he said he would give me like $85 and he'd pay for shipping for the radio, the power supply, the cable. And I was just like, oh, okay, man. And since then, I've unsubscribed from the mailing list. I was just like, you know what? If the radio goes for 500, I give you a really good offer at 250. Like, your profit margin on that is super high because you don't even have to repair it. And they go for 500 to 550 on eBay at that time. And you're gonna lowball me and tell me $80. It's just like, okay, and then try to pad it by saying I'll pay for shipping. Like, okay, dude. But I understand it's a small business. Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's not small, but it is like he doesn't have a staff team. I believe it's just him, his wife, and maybe like somebody else in his family that run the business. So, I mean, I just had a bad experience, but you know, maybe that's one off.
Yeah,
So.
it could be. I mean,
they only offer you $80.
That's
that blows my mind.
Yeah, and I even
Are you still trying to sell it?
Yeah, but
I'll give you 90.
I'll buy it for 250.
Okay. It's a chunk to ship, so I don't like. That's why I was looking for somebody like MTC who would pay for the shipping. It's gonna cost like $30 to ship the damn thing because it's big and it's heavy as hell. Like, I don't know if you've ever held one, but they're like 25 pounds a piece.
If you're not in a big hurry to sell it, we should talk about that. I might be interested in that radio.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's
and I can find a way
580.
to ship
It's
there.
the 580.
Yeah, TS580 SAT. It's a really good radio. Yeah. There was a slight problem that I ended up fixing with it. I think I even told you about it, Nick. The receiver was just not receiving at all. And it just ended up being a oh god, what was it? It was a I think it was, because luckily this is old enough not to be surface mount. So here I am unscrewing the panels. And I believe it was a small capacitor. I just gave it 12 volts and followed 6 down the receiver until I stopped seeing 6, backstepped, and then did a bypass with a paper clip with 10 volts, so the radio wouldn't actually power up, it wouldn't do any damage, and it worked. So then I just put a new capacitor in.
Scared me. With a paper
Hey
clip.
man, you gotta learn how to do radio repair. It's fun. At least though, old
dude,
radios are
Bert's
fun to
all
repair.
over it. When Bert first got his license, what did you get, Bert?
Which one?
The
one from Chris?
I think so. Yeah, it ended up being in like an 11-meter radio or something, right?
The one I got from Chris was the FT. It's the FT 101, and that was like made like the year I was born, just basically like 71 or whatever, right?
I'm looking at it online. Holy crap! You want a thick brick, bro? That's where
Dude,
it's at.
the thing was I was like, he said, "Oh yeah, it's in the front seat of the RV," and I go and get it. I was like, "What the hell is this?" I never seen it. Right? And I pull it up. I was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna break my back." I'm trying to lift this up, right? And I hope I get it. I still have it. Yeah, I still have it. And I've kind of messed with it and everything. I tried to recap. I've recapped it on one of the boards, and then I also recapped one of the redid one of the other things that goes from the transformer out to the power distribution or whatever it was. And
power amplifier.
I don't know what I did, but I went to go turn it on and zap! I was like, what the hell was that? And I lost like a whole trace was like gone. It was like just pow. It's like, where'd the trace go?
Time to manufacture your own PCB there.
Oh yeah, but no, I ended up just jumpering a wire there. But it's like, oh my god, there's like 600 volts going through there. I was like,
oh yeah,
dude, I'm scared of this thing.
It's not that bad. Wear your rubber gloves. Follow Kellen's safety steps that he walked through one of the nets.
Oh
Wear
yeah,
your rubber gloves.
yeah. I was like reading the manual, and it's just one of those things where it's like in the manual, in the actual manual, it says, you might get, what's it called? Electrician's elbow, because you'll get a zap and you'll
Oh yeah,
hit your
the
arm against the
manual actually is
wall.
funny.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. I got lucky. I spoke with somebody on the air regarding the radio, and they were just like, yeah, they didn't even really tell me what to do, and I was like, all right. So then I kind of just was messing with it on my own, and I did look online, and one of the steps was to recap it, but that was like last like last ditch effort. And so I'm going through, and I'm like, you know what? I've done this before. Why don't I just the receiver's gonna have 6 volts on it, right? And I just followed the 6 volts. I'm like, okay, probe. Oh look, broken capacitor. And then if you give the radio suboptimal voltage, via its built-in power supply, because via an external power supply, not a built-in. If you give it like 10 volts, the radio won't turn on, but the receiver will still come up, and you can look and probe and see, okay, yeah, this is what needs to be bypassed, and just quick solder, since it's not surface mount, and your radio is repaired and operational. I haven't transmit tested it, but I know the previous owner said he never used it. He just turned it on, and it sat on for like 3 weeks, and then turned it off and never used it again.
Wow.
So its transmit time is like 0 minutes, other than whatever they did in the factory for a transmit test. So
Jeez.
Similar to my TS2000, I've put on its HF side, I've put 0. It has 0 transmit hours on HF, and on VHF UHF it's got maybe a couple hours now that I've used it. But with the TS2000, I believe they're separate, completely separate RF decks and amplifier, obviously, but they're not linked in any way. So, and it's a physical switch. Anytime you change a band, anytime you change a band, you hear the relay go and click over. So then you know you're giving it power. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, you know what's unfortunate? So Harbach Electronics, you know who that is, Rick?
Huh?
It's a company that he kind of specializes in older tube amplifier, mainly Heathkit stuff, and he sells like soft start setups for it, capacitors and stuff to rebuild, and all kinds of different parts like that. He just posted something in July that said he had a flood at his house, and all of his orders were refunded, and he's closed until he gets everything cleaned up, so he won't be open until mid-October. That's too bad. But he sells replacement filter capacitor blocks, whole blocks that you can just put into these amplifier setups, and I was just looking at them because I have a couple of capacitors that I think are going to start failing here pretty quick. It's an old piece of equipment. I actually got it from Chris, just like the radio you got, Bert.
Yeah.
How did he just have all this? He just procured that.
No, so Chris was before he was even a ham operator, he was super into like just tube amplifiers. Not just for radio communications, but for like sound equipment amplifiers and stuff like that. And he had loads of them in his garage. And I think a lot of that stuff just ended up getting thrown away, unfortunately.
Speaking of tube amplifiers, Nick, I did write somebody an email. I'm awaiting a response on it, but we spoke about him. You said you would go crazy if I got him on the anti-net.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I did reach out.
No way.
I'm still awaiting
No
a response.
way.
Yeah, I did.
And you got a response?
No, I haven't gotten a response.
Oh, okay. If you get a response, I'm gonna be blown away if you get a response. That'd be so funny.
We won't expose it over the air, but
that'd be
over
hilarious.
the net. But it is somebody very famous.
Extremely.
Extremely famous.
That's funny.
Not as a joke. It's legit. Somebody like TMZ type famous. So.
That's funny.
That's a.
Well, cool guys. It's almost 9:40. I think I'm ready to hit the hay. I don't know about you all, but I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. And Stryker, it was good to see you. Rick, good to see you. Bert, as always. I don't know where Will went. We've been staring at an empty door here for a little while. But Will, if you can hear us, I hope you have a good night. And your computer, you left it on when you went to bed. Anybody else got anything before we shut her down?
Ham harder, bruh.
Ham harder. All right. Thanks everybody for watching on YouTube. Oh, we got a question. Let's answer this first. Johan Palm on YouTube asked, "What's the power pole thingy that he has attached to the battery again?" So the regular I guess the people that created it is called Mountain West Radio, and it's called a power gate. So it's designed
West
to
Mountain Radio.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you. West Mountain Radio, and it's called a power gate. And I'll turn my I have my video off. Johan, that looks like this. And Connor has a different version, which is just kind of like a knockoff, but they function essentially the same. And what it's designed to do is you run power from your power supply into one spot, and then you run power from a battery backup into another spot, and then you run to whatever device you're going to power through the third spot. And should you lose power from your power supply, this will automatically switch it over to your battery backup. And then if you get power back from your power supply, it will automatically switch it back. And so
start charging.
And start charging again. Yeah. So it's designed to just work fluently. So if you are running like a solar system into a battery bank, or you simply want to have electronics ran through a battery backup, so should your power go out, you have a way to power those, that kind of thing. It's extremely useful. And although the authentic West Mountain ones are fairly expensive to purchase, the one that Connor had, did you post a link to that, Connor, by chance?
No, I'll post it.
Okay.
Hold on, give me a second. I got it right here.
The one that Connor had suggested, it functions just fine. It works, and if you're just doing some modest, I mean, if you were really concerned about some really high level equipment and you were running a really expensive solar system, you might spring for the more expensive one. But if you're just running a couple radios or something like that, and you just want to always be able to have them on in case of an emergency at your house or something to that effect, I think the one that Connor has is absolutely sufficient. So
yeah, mine, the one that I just posted, it comes with the Anderson power poles. So it comes with 6, 3 red, 3 black, so you can make your cables. Or it fits into your pre-existing system. Max 30 amps. I have not pulled 30 amps through mine, but I have pulled 20 amps, and it seems to work fine. That one that I just showed on my camera a little bit ago, that one's actually going to go with my HF setup here at the house, because I got some really, really big batteries. I got a massive array that I want to set up for my HF stuff, so it'll literally power, I'll turn my camera on, everything illuminated behind me that you can see, it will turn on, because that's all on one, well, other than the 2 shortwave receivers, those are on AC, but those have their own battery backup, but all my keyer and all this, everything there pretty much will be on battery backup, and it's all, I have big plans. I got fuse boxes and toggle switches and voltmeters and current meters. And
that might be something fun to talk about one night, is maybe get somebody on with some really good in-depth knowledge on just the basics of electronics and electrical draw and that kind of thing, just to give people a heads up, because I mean a 30 amp 30 amps is a lot, and the one that I had just shown, that's rated for 40 amps. That can power a lot of equipment. I mean, on full key up on a typical 100 watt radio, you're pulling like 13 or 14 amps or something like that.
I think it's like 26.
I don't think it's that high on mine. I don't think it's that high.
I'll do the calculations later. Yeah, I could have sworn 100-watt radio, you should have at least a 30-amp power supply.
And you should, yeah, but I don't think you're drawing that much power. What say you, Rick? You know.
Well, if it's 100 watts and it's a 12-volt supply, just divide 100 by 12. What is that, 10 or whatever? So I think you're not going to draw ever more than 15 amps, something like that.
So you take your voltage, or you take your wattage divided by your voltage, which gives you your current?
Volts times current equals watts. So 100 watts, if you're drawing 100 watts, if you're putting out 100 watts, your radio might be actually doing, say, 120, something like that, drawn from the power mains. And I say that just because then dividing by a 12-volt battery, that's 10 amps. 12 times 10 equals 120. Voltage times current equals power.
So I just did 100 divided by 12. That's 8.3 repeating bar. But you know what? I've got an Amazon package arriving. It's an inline volt and current meter. I intend on putting that on every one of my setups so I can see what I'm doing. And I guess I'm pretty sure you're right on that. If my knowledge does suit me correctly, I believe it's wattage times divided by voltage equals current in amps.
Mouth stuff.
Or if you've got a 100-watt radio, it's actually drawing from the mains more than 100 watts. It's transmitting 100, but all the circuits
RF watts,
like kick it up a little bit, call it 120, and it makes the math come out easy.
10 amps.
Look at what I started. The great debate.
Well, I hope he answered. Let's see. 100-watt full key down is about 21 to 23 amps typically. Or when doing FT8 digital, you have to figure inefficiency. Yeah, I was gonna say I could have sworn it was closer to like 20 amps of current for 100 watts, because I always knew 30 amp supply for 100-watt transmit power. Don't go anything below that, because you're gonna need headroom. So I don't think it's only 8 amps. So to calculate Ohm's law to calculate amp draw. Is that what I need? Okay. Amps is equal to voltage divided by that's the voltage divided by resistance.
Amp draw is a mathematical calculation. Divide the total number of watts by the system's volts. For example, a 100-watt bulb in a 12-volt system will draw 8.3 amps.
Yeah, that's what I got as well. Maybe it's too late at night. I don't know.
It might be.
Because you know what that means. You know what that means, Nick? No. You know what that means? Then that means a 50-watt radio on a 12-volt system only pulls 4 amps. I don't think so. I know it pulls more than that. My Motorola radios idle at about 1.25 amp consistent because of its scanning and display and everything like that. So I don't think it only pulls.
Well, remember the watts
watts
you're citing is the RF output, and the radio actually draws from the battery more than that because it's got to power all the printed circuit boards, the display, all that stuff. So you got to, but the main thing is a 50-watt transmitter. So I would guess it might be 60 watts from main. Just kick it up 20%, 30%, something. But it's not going to be double. A 100-watt radio isn't going to draw 200 watts from the mains. That would be an extremely inefficient, bad radio.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I have one of those.
I think we all have one of those somewhere.
Keys it up, the whole house, just the lights go doom, and then come back up.
All right. Well, maybe that might be something interesting for a future topic to discuss. But anyway, let's say 7-3 to those on YouTube. Appreciate everybody coming out and all the questions and the input. Hope to see you all next week, and we will we'll look forward to it. So 7-3, and don't forget to like and subscribe for those that are still watching.
See ya.
7-3.
3-0.
7-3, yo.